Alright. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to episode 4 of the Suddenly Tenno Podcast. Have you tried turning it off and on again? My name is Dimitri V2, and joining me today are, of course, Headshot and Frozen Boss. Now, this episode we will be talking about the changes discussed in Deathstream 62, along with some other things. First of which will be the Myos. It's supposed to be released somewhere later this week. I think we've seen a bit more of it. We've already seen the animations previously. It's going to be actually released later this week. There are not going to be any charge attacks on it yet. That's coming with update 18, I think it was. But yeah, from what we've seen so far, Headshot, Frozen, anything you want to add to previous discussion we had on the last podcast, or nothing changed yet?
Well, just want to add one thing to it. Well, not add, is just kind of repeat what I said before. Sundowner! Every time I see the animations, it reminds me of Sundowner from Metal Gear Revengeance, and it makes me smile even bigger. That's all right, to be honest. I'm just looking forward to playing with it now.
Yeah, in all honesty, the thing looks beautiful. It looks amazing. I'm hoping the whip hit detection isn't going to be crap, because that was something that the whips suffered from very, very early on. And honestly, I hope it's something a bit different, because at the moment I feel a lot of the melee weapons are kind of reskins of each other. And they're very, unlike some of the primary weapons, a lot, you've got the Ignis, which plays very differently to a Soma. In all honesty, something like, the Dragon Arcana doesn't actually play that much differently to, the Dual Ikers. In all honesty, it's still the same sort of thing. So I hope mechanically it kind of feels a bit different, because at the moment I think melee is kind of lacking in that department. I just hope the Myos may be something a bit different.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like melee is mostly reskins of each other. They feel kind of the same. There are some weapons that stand out, things like the Jet Katag, the Galatine. I enjoy playing with those as well, but most of them, honestly, I don't see a difference between an Adarex or a Soliak or things like that. It all just feels the same, and I as well hope that the Myos is going to be something different.
Well, just looking at it, it's got the whole combination of like the scissor sword kind of thing, and then it's got the whip combined as well. So, that dual combination, it's unique already in that sense. It's just hoping that it's unique enough and it actually does decent damage, or, it actually is a useful weapon, because there's no point putting all that effort into a weapon and, it performs, suboptimally. And if it's only good for Apollodorus, then what is the point of putting all that effort in? But obviously, DE do know what they're doing most of the time, so I'm hoping, they actually get some good balance going on that weapon as well, and they give it some decent stats. So we'll get to play with it soon enough anyway, so we'll see how it goes.
All right, fair enough. Next up is clan downsizing is coming. Now, Frozen, I know you absolutely love this, and you have quite a few things to say about, clan UI and clan downsizing in general. But first, basically, clan downsizing will be coming soon. It won't cost anything, but there will be limits on it to prevent abuse. I don't know if they're going to be changing the clan UI either, but yeah. It's something I'd say. Frozen, take it away on this one, because I know you have a lot to say.
Alright, my main thing is clan UI, and I think that's just an extension of the UI changes in general. We have gone through a few UI changes in the overtime as we've played Warframe. Some of you people who have played for quite some time will remember exactly what I'm talking about. Like, say, for example, Star Chop 1.0, and, just how the UI was before, how the modding UI was. So, we've gone through all those modding changes, and over time, there are changes being made. Some of it are good, some of it are bad. Some of it could have been done a bit better. One of my biggest gripes is clan UI. Usually, it wouldn't have bothered me, but ever since I made the alliance with you, Dimitri, and I ended up having loads of clans, asking to join, what it's resulted in is basically... it's basically resulted in the like me being unable to tell which clans in the alliance are actually active and which ones are not, and that's a big problem, because I can't do clan management properly or alliance management properly. I can't tell which clans are active, which clans aren't. So I'm hoping, that hopefully the clan UI is changed and it's made a bit better, So it basically becomes, it gets to a point where you can actually, tell which clans are active, which clans aren't, and you can, make decisions based on that itself. But apart from that, clan UI is very frustrating for me right now. So, I would personally love if those changes come a bit sooner rather than later. But from what I understand from the dev stream, they are not going to be coming before update 19 most likely. So that kind of triggers me off in a bad way. But I suppose I can just wait it out and see how it goes. Hopefully I can, hopefully they might be convinced that they might, make the changes sooner rather than later. But I just got fingers crossed. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see what happens, I guess.
Fair enough. And Hatchel, I know we'll just expand this topic into just UI changes in general. The UI changes that they've shown previously on the dev stream are coming in update 19, not update 18. There's two things I want to talk about that, but let's first discuss the actual UI changes. Headshot, I know that you're colorblind as well and things like that, and especially with the raid that we're going to be discussing later on as well today. Just the UI still doesn't properly help people with color blindness. It's still like there are still problems in it, and I know you want to go on a rant about this, so go right ahead. I'd say, what are your opinions on just UI in its current state and the UI that's coming up next?
In all honesty, like the problem isn't really in the game, isn't really with the UI, which does need changing. In terms of color blindness, I don't really want to go into too much of a rant about that because I know that they are looking into certain bits and pieces, and I have got a forum thread I will link at the end of this. So I'd rather sort of keep that going that sort of direction. But in terms of the actual UI changes, they look very, very clean. It's something that's needed doing for quite a long time. Especially the chat changes. Chat changes look amazing, and should have been done again a long, long time ago. I kind of disagree with their timing of actually announcing that though, because just before update 18, we're doing all the update 18 features, and they drop something in that people are excited about, and then the next dev stream say it's not going to be until update 19, which is kind of crazy. I really think that we shouldn't be finding out, like, if we're in the sort of hype train for the most recent update, which is going to be update 18, we don't need to find out about stuff 4 months ahead of what it is, because people just want that stuff now. The chat is something that really needs to have changed, and has needed to have changed for a long, long time, but I'm not sure teasing update 19 stuff before 18 is shipped is not particularly a good idea. Especially, like, I get that DE are excited about it, but sometimes these changes need to be, more thought out before they're actually announced, maybe. Take the multi-shot changes, for example. They were just casually dropped into the conversation. Like, there was very little explanation as to what it was and what was going on with it. And then we wonder why people flip out and the forums are filled with doomsday threads. It's awesome to see that DE are excited about these things, but maybe we need to have a bit more information on it before they kind of announce it. I don't know, maybe I'm just being a grumpy old man today, but I kind of feel that should be something that's done.
Sorry, go on. I was just going to say, it's basically what I was saying is, it's basically, showing teasers for the sake of showing teasers instead of, actually, like, say, for example, the topic we were talking about yesterday itself, that, they tease something, yet they don't actually have a release date, which is soon, so to speak, and it's in the distant future. Why bother teasing something like that this early if you guys already know that, it's not coming out anytime soon? Yes, I know you're excited. Like you said, excitement is good, when you're making a game. If you don't have the passion for making it, then, it's kind of a waste of time and effort. But at the same time, one second, just fell in with the scooter. I just need to deal with it.
But yeah, like Frozen, like you two said, I agree. That's also the other topic that I actually wanted to talk about, was the fact that DE just teases a lot of things on their dev streams, on the forums, things like that, without them actually, almost, I would say, being ready to be teased. It's like they announced the fact that they have Christmas presents halfway through August. It's not like there are still lots of things in development. Some things might change. Some things they just haven't even figured out on their own what they want to do with it yet. Things like that. So I just sometimes, as much as being enthusiastic is good, and they clearly have a passion for the game and developing it because they want to show off everything that they are working on. But I think they need to take a step back with it and just be like, all right, we are working. This dev stream is about things that are related to update 18. So let's only show the things that are related to update 18. The fact that they show the UI changes that are coming, and then everyone get hyped for like, oh god, update UI changed in update 18, and then they have to announce, well, they're actually going to be update 19. Sorry about that. And then it just kills the hype train. It makes people angry. It makes people upset without having to do that. They could have just been like, well, we can show it another dev stream, we can talk about it later, drop a hint about it on the dev stream, like yeah, we are working on UI changes, but don't show anything yet if you are like keeping it for update 19. I think DE should take a step back with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see that they are hyped for their own game. Like, that makes me happy to hear. Because there's nothing worse than a soulless developer trying to make a game that people are going to carry on playing for years to come, and then wonder why it doesn't do very well. Like, the fact that DE are so enthusiastic about their game is fantastic. I just think that sometimes it needs to be to sort of curb the enthusiasm slightly. And just maybe think about more when they're going to announce these things, rather than just like, oh, look, we got all this awesome stuff, throw it everywhere. Which is kind of, it ends up being counterintuitive, and then we end up with, a million doomsday threads on the forums because things haven't been fleshed out before they're actually announced.
Yep, the big thing for me about that is the multi-shot changes that they announced a while ago. They were saying like, we're going to be changing multi-shot, and that's it. Everyone started going into a panic. They started, creating threads about it on the forums, in streams, things like that, on YouTube videos, leaving comments. Everyone is in full panic mode. And then, during the last dev stream, I'm pretty sure they said like, well, we want to talk about the multi-shot changes, but we actually don't know what we're doing with it yet, so we can tell you what we're doing with it. If they actually had an idea and, announced it later on, it would have helped them calm down issues a bit. Like, no, we're not going to do this, no, we're not going to do that, because then they would have a clear idea of what they're going to be doing with it, and they could address issues that the community has with it. But at the moment, everyone's making doomsday threads and being like, oh no, it's the end of the world, when even DE themselves don't know what they're doing with it yet. Hell, they might even decide, like, maybe touching multi-shot for now isn't such a great idea, and then just ditch the entire thing while everyone's creating doomsday threads. I think they should take a step back and, announce things when they actually have things to announce, instead of being like, well, we had this awesome idea that we're going to do, but we're not sure how we're going to do it yet, but we're going to do it.
Well, one thing I'm just going to say, gamers are very dramatic people. They like complaining about everything and anything. They can complain about, the dimples on their face. They can complain about their water being too hard. They can complain about, their burger being too soft, whatever. They just need a reason to complain. It's just how we are. Unfortunately, developers understand that as well, and we kind of deal with that as well. But having said that, it's something which I guess it kind of goes hand in glove, unfortunately. It's kind of like one of those necessary evils, so to speak. I say necessary evil. It's not really necessary. It's just one of those evils that just exists and isn't going to stop. But, I'm kind of digressing there.
Yeah, fair enough. I understand what you mean. It's just, I would personally prefer it more if they kept a bit more quiet about certain things that they're working on, and actually tell us or show us things that they actually have figured out, instead of announcing things that they want to change in the future but aren't sure how they are going to change it.
Yeah.
All right, anything else we want to add to this, the UI changes and the fact that just DE in general with their announcements of how they do things?
I think you guys have pretty much covered everything I was going to say, to be honest. So yeah, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
All right. On to the next topic then. Wukong frame is coming at the end of this year. Now, Headshot, I personally know that you feel strongly about this, like just the Wukong frame and just China-related things in general. So, well, tell us how you feel about this.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not that hyped for Wukong at all. It looks like a whole bunch of recycled like abilities from other frames. His from what we've seen so far from his abilities, you know, these might change, these might not. His sort of his cloud jump looks just like a better version of like Ash's smokescreen and Loki's invisibility, combined with super jump. You've also got Exalted Stick as his 4. You know, it just feels like and then Soul Punch as one of his other abilities, basically. It just feels like a whole bunch of reused powers on a new frame, which actually doesn't make me very hyped for it at all. But I think there's a reason for that, and that's because the China frame market is very different to the European market. The sort of principles of the designs are different. And honestly, I don't think mixing the two is actually a very good idea at all. I think the China frame should have remained China frame and separate, because it's confusing the principles of the two. But not only that, now everybody that sees anything that goes on in China and on China frame is going to expect it to come to the global build. It's not going to be one of those things that people hope is going to come to the global build, because obviously we're gamers, and as such we want all the stuff we can get. It's going to be an expectation that it comes to the global build, and that is going to cause a lot of problems and a lot of headaches in the long run, because if there is something that isn't going to be coming to the global build, there is going to be a massive storm on the forums, because that's just the way things end up going. Keeping Warframe European, Warframe China completely separate would have just solved a whole lot of problems for DE. And I think, I'm not sure whether mixing the two sort of design principles is actually a particularly good thing. You know, I know a lot of people are hyped for Wukong, and I'm probably going to get, you know, people moaning at me because I'm not that hyped for him, but, you know, yeah. It's just the way I feel, I guess. I just feel that they should be two completely separate entities.
Yeah, I agree. Frozen, anything you want to add to that?
Alright, see, I'm on the edge when it comes to dealing with China. On one day, you all know I love my mastery rank. You know that. I'm mastery 21. I'm just going to quickly plug that as well. And the point is, I love my mastery rank, so new warframes, new weapons for me to get to that mastery 30 ever so closer is always a good thing. Having said that, putting, you know, my personal ego aside, I kind of feel similar to Headshot. I really think that because China's design principles are so much different from, you know, Warframe International's principles, it might have been a better idea to just keep them completely separate. In that case, you know, Wukong stays with China, doesn't come over. And now there's the whole aspect of the Umbra parts coming over as well. Okay, fair enough. You want to make that transition across and, you know, make it fit in, fair enough. But it just kind of feels like it's just being shoved in for the sake of shoving it in. No puns intended. But it just feels like, you know, it's being forced in. But, you know, like with the Wukong, yes, some of the abilities look cool. Some of the abilities are, you know, like recycled, maybe better versions or less better versions of, you know, what we currently already have. But, you know, I think, you know, keeping it unique to China would definitely have been nice. But again, at the end of the day, it comes down to the simple fact that we're gamers. We want everything. We are self-entitled people. So we want everything. And, you know, I guess we just have to kind of deal with that. So that's all I really have to say about that matter for, you know, regarding China.
All right, fair enough. I personally would... the thing that I'm worried about is that it's going to cost DE a lot of things in the future. Like, they're going to be, you know, what if the Chinese Warframe developers decide to cross a line that, you know, our DE doesn't want to cross? Do they, like, bring over the changes anyway and just decide, like, all right, well, guess we're going to have to cross that line? Do they decide to, no, we're not going to do that? Because then in the future, like Headshot said, there would be a massive shitstorm on the forums and things like that if, they decide to bring everything that China has released so far back into our Warframe. But if they only pick and choose, I think that would be the best approach. I think just pick and choose what they want to bring over from the Chinese Warframe. Sometimes bring something over, but leave some of the more weird stuff, I guess, like the things that D isn't that comfortable with. Leave that out of Warframe for now. Just pick and choose what you want to go with. Otherwise, I see a lot of problems in the future for them. Anything else we want to add to that, or?
No, not really. It's more, from my point of view, it's more down to the design choices as well. Like, in terms of art style and everything, traditionally a game marketed for China is a very different art style, very different feel to it than a more westernized sort of game. And I don't know whether combining those two elements, like, there would be too big of a contrast, I think, in Warframe. But I'm not sure about that. I'm not an artist. I'm really not.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I can understand where you're coming from. Mixing art styles might be it would create a contrast in the game that would be very noticeable, and some people just don't want it. I personally don't really like the art styles from the Chinese Warframe either. I prefer the more the Western style of Warframes, things like that. But I don't know. Like, I think personally, it comes down to personal opinion, but I think there would be a bit of a clash in just different art styles there. Some wouldn't mind it, some would actually like it, but I think there are also people out there who would really dislike it when that is brought in. So I don't know. In the end, it's up to DE, but I'd say keep the things separate and pick and choose what you want.
I think one thing I would just like to point out before we move on topic, art style is, like you said already, it comes down to personal taste. I mean, you say that, the Chinese art style is a bit different, but then if you think about it, you've got Ash, which looks like a ninja, and then you've got a dragon, which is the Chroma, and then all of a sudden you've got a guy in a suit, which is Limbo. And then you've got people wearing armor like, say, Rhino, or, so you've got different looks. It's just certain looks fit in, certain looks are completely different. Then you got Mesa, the gunslinger ninja, however that works. So my point is, aesthetics are, what it comes down to, as a personal opinion and personal choice. Some people will like it, other people won't. I personally hate the look of certain frames, and because of that, I don't use them. Original Trinity, absolutely hated the lobster, but refused to use her. Trinity Prime, absolutely gorgeous. I will play Trinity Prime if someone asks me to. They don't even have to force me with a gun. I'll play her because I actually like the look of her character, and I'm a kind of person who's heavily driven by aesthetics. I've always have been. If something doesn't look good, I'm not going to use it. It's just how it is. Call me a hipster, call me what you want. It is what it is, mate. I'm always driven by aesthetics. So that's what it comes down to as well. So
Yeah, no, fair enough. In the end, it does come down to aesthetics. I'm just worried that DE might be, if they keep bringing everything over from China, I'm worried that they might be forced into a situation that they don't want to. Either they bring it in and cross the line that they themselves don't want to cross, or they don't bring it in, and since everyone expects all of China stuff to come in at that point, that there would be a massive shitstorm. So I don't know. It is a very delicate line, I think, that D is treading, and I wish, I want them to be careful with it. All right. Anything else we want to add to the whole China rant, or is that it?
I think it really, to be honest.
All right, fair enough. On to the next change that they announced was the Bladestorm changes coming up for Ash. They're basically going to be changing how the ultimate works. How do we feel about that? Frozen, take it away. How do you feel about the Bladestorm changes that they announced in the dev stream so far?
I think just like any other topic, there isn't enough information to actually formulate a proper opinion about what they're going to be changing. It's very less. It's like very small amounts of information. So until I actually get more information about it, I can't really say anything about it, to be honest.
All right, fair enough. Anything we would like to see though from the Bladestorm changes that you personally would like to see?
Only change I would like to see is it becomes less nauseating. The only thing I don't like about Bladestorm, I find it very nauseating personally when I'm using it. So it's like you use the ultimate and you start getting teleported and you get kind of locked into that cutscene kind of thing. And I really don't like that aspect. I would personally have preferred if they made it so that, how Saryn is basically you press 4 and everything around you just died. I would rather if they had done something like that with Bladestorm, where you press 4 and your clones just kind of pop, like 20 clones pop around you and just insta-kill all the enemies at the same time. Or alternatively, even a better option, changing the way Bladestorm entirely works itself. So you have your blades, you pull them out, and you've got like some massive damage or something like that. I don't know. Either way, is whatever they change, I think it'll still be better than the nauseating version, which we currently have right now. I don't know how many people agree with me in terms of Bladestorm being nauseating. I know some people find it relaxing, which is fair enough. Personally, it's not my thing.
All right. Headshot, anything you want to add to that, or anything you would like to see from Bladestorm changes?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, from what it sounded like, they were going to completely just remove the fact that you're going to be with your clones when you're doing the Bladestorm. It sounded like you're just going to essentially, like, pretty much what Frozen said from the dev stream anyway, that you press 4 and your clones go and kill stuff. But to me, that sounds kind of lazy mode. That sounds like a real lazy mode ultimate. The whole argument that DE had recently was that they are going to have more interactive powers, more interactive 4s. But that seems to have already gone out the window with the Rumblers, which you just press 4 and then they just do stuff. And then if they change Bladestorm to be even further like you just press 4 and all your clones go and kill stuff, how is that interactive? I don't understand it. It just seems kind of lazy mode, personally. I do agree that Bladestorm needs a change, and the camera angles are kind of nauseating because it's that constant switching. It's just that switch all the time. But having a fire and forget 4 isn't really the answer, I don't think. It needs to be strong, but it also needs to be that you actually have some element of skill in there as well. Like, we're going to talk about them a little bit later, but the Saryn rework, you've got to build up the damage before your 4 is really good. Doing something similar with Ashe would actually be a really good idea. I just don't like the idea of these fire and forget 4s. I really don't think that's the answer to the problem. In fact, it creates the same problem we've had beforehand with Saryn. Saryn's was essentially a fire and forget 4. You just press 4, everything died. And that was mostly the reason that she was changed. So having more frames that are going to do just that is not the way forward.
All right, fair enough. I guess while we're on the topic of Saryn, the Saryn rework happened. Is there anything we want to, talk about that? The energy capacity, things like that. Just the rework in general. Do any of you want to have a first go at it?
Headshot, do you want to start off?
I was going to say you've had more chance of to actually play with her. Like, I only know a little bit at the moment.
Okay, well, I can talk about Saryn. Alright, so basically the changes with Saryn have come in is, I'm pretty sure everyone here already knows, the standard build for Saryn was go with a negative duration build, use the Arcane Chlora helmet, and then just press 4 to win. Just stack damage, stack range, stack efficiency, negative duration, and just press 4, watch everything around you just melt, right? So that was the way Saryn used to work before. With the changes that have come in now, you can't actually do that. In order to actually utilize Miasma, in order to utilize her power and to utilize Saryn effectively now, you now have to mod for duration, power strength, efficiency to an extent, and range. So what also that has also done is the rework has also basically changed the way her abilities work, because you now actually have power interaction between all 4 powers. So when you use the first ability, that can be augmented by the third ability. You can combine the first and the third ability with the second ability, and then on top of that, once you combine 1, 2, and 3 together, you can then pop Miasma and absolutely nuke everything and just watch everything melt away. Having said that, don't get me wrong, people who are saying that Saryn is weak now, to an extent, I understand where you're coming from, and I do agree in in the aspect that, you had miasma before, where you press 4 to win and everything just melted away by doing 20k, 40k corrosive damage, and everything just died, right? I understand that aspect, but remember, not everyone likes that kind of gameplay. It is very boring. You can still kind of pull that off with an Ember. But with the Saryn, the changes that have come in, it's made her very interactive. It's made her a poison queen, so to speak. It's made her kind of like specialized towards DOTs. As a person who played a lot of DC Universe and playing a lot as a fire DPS and a nature DPS, I know I know all about the dots, and I used to love the dots. So doing damage over time was one of my favorite things, and being able to outperform other people with burst damage it just used to put a smile on my face. And even now with Saryn, with the changes that have come in, you can definitely do that. You can still pump out a lot of damage. You can clear a room using just the spores if you so choose. So it just comes down to how you mod her and how you build her. That's all it really comes down to, and that comes down to pretty much any Warframe there. So what I'm going to say to people who have already, doomsdayed her, so to speak, give her some time, try her out. She's definitely a powerful frame. She can definitely pump out that damage. You just have to mod and play her differently compared to what you used to do before. You press 4 and forget about everything and watch everything melt away. That doesn't work anymore. You actually have to actively play the character and use her abilities in order to pump out that damage.
All right, fair enough. One of the problems that people are mentioning, though, is that since you now have to use all of her abilities, the fact that her energy costs, and the fact that you can't go with a full efficiency build anymore because fleeting expertise will kill your duration, so to speak. People have been finding lots of issues maintaining enough energy to actually keep casting abilities on her. I personally haven't really tried Saryn that much yet, but that was one of my worries coming into it, and it seems like they have, come to a realization. The fact that just, energy costs are, for some frames, I think, too high in general. How do you guys feel about that?
I would just like to point out one thing. With the Saryn rework, they also reduced the cost of certain abilities as well, so they don't cost that much. She got an increase in her power pool. Her base power pool is increased to 200 plus, and she took a bit of a hit in her HP overall. So there are kind of two builds. So again, I'm not going to go too much into the builds right now because this isn't about that. This podcast isn't about that. But just as an example, if you build with Rage and then you add Vitality, you've got enough of a HP pool there, and then you've got Regenerative Molt. So you can always have HP coming back in, and you've also got energy coming back in. So you can always recycle that together. Then you can also do the quick thinking and rage build, and you can always have energy coming in. And on top of that, if you need energy or if you need HP back, you can always use Life Strike on a melee weapon. So there is always ways of regenning and recycling that power and bringing it back. So even if you don't use Prime Flow or Flow, you shouldn't have any power issues. I don't. I've been playing with her quite some bit. I've been spamming her powers, and I haven't run into any power issues whatsoever. So again, it is a new change. You might need to get used to them. So just spend some time playing her and you'll be okay with it.
It's more the fact that people haven't got used to her yet. Like, she is very, very powerful still. It's just that people haven't got it. People are stuck in that press 1 button to like clear everything kind of mentality, which is not the right way to be sort of thinking about it. Like, she is so much more interactive now. If you just to get the most out of Miasma at the moment, you press 1 on a target, you hit them with Contagion, and then you press 4. And most of the time, you're going to wipe everything. It's really not that difficult. It's just that people are stuck in the whole mindset of how they played Saryn before, which was jump into a room, press 4, everything dies, move on. I don't see how it's a crazy situation we've got to, that a frame that was realistically only a 1 power frame beforehand now has 4 very good and very usable powers, and she's now worse than she was before. Really? Are you sure? I really don't understand how we've got to the stage where having 4 usable powers is actually worse than having just 1, but hey. Personally, I found her a lot more fun to use. I don't think she's still probably not going to get that much playtime from me. It's not really my kind of playstyle. But in terms of power, she's very, very strong. She's very good. And she does a lot of damage, and she does a lot of damage very quickly if you know how to spread the things properly. If you combine it with things like the Ignis or, even a long-range melee, long-range melees combined with Contagion is also fantastic. Combine it with an Orthos Prime. You'll spread those spores really, really quickly, and build up your the damage from Miasma, which, if you do it properly, Miasma does a lot more damage than it does before. I can see the whole energy thing being an issue, but I like Frozen. Me and Frozen are running very similar builds at the moment, with the regenerative molt, rage, vitality combo. And personally, I don't run flow at the moment, and I don't really have much of a problem making sure I've got enough energy to cast all three of the powers. I just don't see how that's much of a problem personally, but I guess once you're stuck in that press 4 to win mentality, it's very, very difficult to get out, sadly.
Alright, yeah, no, fair enough. Like I said, I haven't really had a chance to play with her yet, get that well into the build, so to speak. So I'm just repeating what I've heard from other people so far, saying that they find that she's been having some energy issues, things like that. But I guess people still need more time to get adjusted to her. I'm personally looking forward to trying her out soon enough, but we shall see. I guess we can always pick up on it some time later once we've actually had a chance to really get into the build and give people time to adjust and things like that. All right, on to if there's anything else we want to add, otherwise let's head over to the next topic.
I do want to say I meant Toxic Lash rather than Contagion.
Yeah, I think
my brain's still stuck on the old power name. Like I called Accelerant Overheat the other day, and it hasn't been called Overheat for 2 years. So
it's not just you, mate. I'm doing the same thing as well. I keep calling it Contagion and calling it, whatever the first one is. Instead of calling it Spores, I called it the other one.
Was it Toxin or something? I can't remember now.
Yeah, I honestly cannot remember either now.
We just come up with random names for it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, to be honest. It covers the topics pretty well regarding the Saryn rework.
All right. On to the next one then. And this is a personal, favorite topic of mine that I wanted to discuss for quite a while. The auction house and trading mode in relays. Now, what they're planning on doing is basically they're allowing you to go into a relay and put yourself in a trading mode, and then you can trade with other people in the relays. They were hoping that would kind of fix trading a bit. They were talking about trading on the dev stream, and they acknowledge that it is a problem and that they are trying something out, working on fixing it. But DE, please, as someone with social anxieties, it's so bad that, if I start a Warframe, I can't talk to people in region chat or trading chat. There's just I get nervous and really anxious. Please give us an auction house. I want it. I want to be able to trade. Just please give us an auction house. I don't see a reason not to. Please. How do you guys feel about this, Frozen? Headshot, I'll ask you first. How do you feel about the, trading in its current state and what they could do to improve it?
I think trading in its current state is absolutely awful. The fact that you can't, beforehand, back in the day, you used to be able to trade and play the game at the same time. You used to have access to the trade chat whilst you were playing. But you can't do that anymore, which means if you want to if you want to actually focus on trading, you can't play the game, which is kind of dumb. That's a really dumb way of doing it. Having an auction house would not only allow people to get rid of prime items and stuff that they've got just lying around already, but it would also help people not get ripped off all the time. Now I know that's part of trading and whatever. Yeah, I know that's part of trading, but having people get ripped off all the time isn't really a good way of getting things done. I just really disagree with the fact that if you want to trade, you can't play the game, which is really, really stupid, and it's really counterintuitive, and it's quite difficult for newer players to sort of, see or find what they need when they need it, I guess. It's also down to the fact that you have to spend hours and hours in chat spamming the same message. Like I tried to get Gaia's Tragedy, and it took me, I think, a week of spamming in the chat where I couldn't really play the game, to try and pick up that mod, which I still haven't used. But it took me like a week of sitting in the chat, not playing the game, to actually get hold of it. And that is why my main problem lies. The fact that you can't actually do anything in-game without, because you don't have access to that trade channel.
Alright, fair enough. I completely agree. I mean, I have, tons of mods and other parts laying around that I just don't want to take the time for to sell, or just don't feel comfortable selling because I don't like talking to other people, as weird as it sounds. But Frozen, I know how you feel about trading and the current trade chat, since, well, you are the master of Platinum. So how do you feel about the changes, Frozen?
See, Alright, see, here's the thing with me. I spend a lot of time in trading. I've seen how the market flows. I've seen it going up and down. I used to do a lot of trading in different games as well, and it was the way I made money as well in the game. So I took that basically forward in Warframe, and I have never had a case where I haven't been able to make platinum. Even now, just as an example, like I said to Headshot earlier on, I was running low on platinum, and I usually save my platinum for like giveaways on the stream sometimes from time to time, and I was running low because I bought all those skins and Day of the Dead stuff, and I was like, what should I do? I'll just max out a mod and sell it for platinum. Instant 2,000 platinum made right there. What I think is, trade chat is good if you spend the time and you put the effort into it and you wait for the deals and you look in the right places. You can always find a deal. You can always make a profit. But not everyone has that kind of time and that kind of patience either. And I understand that aspect. And in that specific situation, I am sympathetic to people. And for that specific situation, fair enough, an auction house would be good. But, just as me being very, very greedy, from that aspect, I would like to see trade chat remain as it is so I can keep making money off of people and keep using the platinum and, living the easy life. You know how it is. So, I mean, putting my personal, greed aside right now, in general, I think a trading auction house might be a good idea. But the thing is, it also depends on how it's implemented. It can take a very bad turn as well, where it doesn't work as well and it ends up, backfiring in terms of how it's actually implemented. I mean, look at what's it called? Was it Diablo 3's trading auction house rather? How much of a fiasco that one was. So you have to be very careful with that as well. So it's a double-edged sword. It can go both good and bad. So it basically comes down to how it's implemented, really. Putting aside, my personal greed aside, and the fact that I can make trading work for me. Not everyone, like I said, not everyone has that kind of success. And the frustration, because I've seen Headshot getting frustrated trying to do some trading. And it kind of confused me at one point, why is he having so much trouble? And then I thought to myself, he doesn't actually spend this much time in the stream, in trade, and he doesn't have that much time to spare to actually stay in trade. Like sometimes when I do, I usually spend maybe hour, sometimes I spend 3-4 hours in trade. It literally comes down to a bit of luck as well, just watching how it goes. So. Like I said, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, no, I agree. There are definitely ups and downs to having an auction house or just improving trade chat. Whatever they do, I want them to at least improve trade chat. Like if they decide to not go for an auction house, fair enough. I would personally really love to see it so I can actually get over my anxiety and actually sell things for once. But at least improve trade chat as it currently is, because at the moment I think even you would have to agree it is pretty bad at the moment.
The topic about the trade chat improvement, what you're saying is that's not actually that's the same topic that comes back to the UI. The UI needs to be changed in order to make it better. If they're going to keep a trade chat thing, that's the actual UI which needs to be improved and changed in order to make it better. So that's not actually the trade chat being the problem, as far as I'm concerned. That's the actual UI. That's the problem here, the culprit here. So any changes they make, if they improve that.
See, I would disagree with that, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you change the trade chat UI stuff. It's going to be the same old trade chat. It's just going to be full of people copy and pasting. It's going to be no different depending. Like, it doesn't matter what UI you have, how pretty you paint it. If you're still going to have the same people in there copy pasting like 400 lines of text, it's still going to be exactly the same. It's still going to be the same crap that it is now. It's just going to be a shinier piece of crap.
Sometimes shiny is good. No, I get your point. That's a good point.
Yeah, no, I think that is mainly the problem right now. There are people, like you, Frozen, who really I wouldn't say like the current trade chat, but make you make your plat off of it. You think there are definitely upsides to it. There are also people like Headshot and me as well who really dislike the current trade chat, who want to see it changed into something more useful instead of people just spamming, line after line after line of them trying to sell things and having an awful experience in it. And that is the problem that the D is facing as well. As they can't really make everyone happy in that sense. I'd say they have to either keep it the way it is and keep some people happy, or change it and make some other people happy. So I'm interested in how they're gonna go to it, and I think that's also one of the reasons why they haven't done anything with it yet for such a long time, because there are just two big camps in here, one that wants to see change, the other that wants to have it stay the same. So I don't know. I'm interested in how D is gonna solve that one. Anything else we want to add to this conversation? All right. Onto one of the last things that they mentioned in the dev stream was the fact that the Sentinels are getting better precepts. I don't think they discussed much about it. It's just we're getting better precepts, so yay, I guess.
Yay.
Which one do we want to do first? The raid or the combination weapons? Because I know Frozen's been having like an itch to talk about the combination weapons, so I guess we can do that one first.
You know what? All right. So are we talking about combo weapons?
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
Go for it.
So this has been a gripe with me for quite some time. As a person who's multi-form on all the weapons and everything, and played with them, people who watch my stream know I'm currently doing something that's called the 5k challenge, which is basically getting 5k kills with every single weapon and Warframe in the game. I'm pretty much done with nearly every single primary weapon, and there are a couple of them left. And what I found out was that all the combo weapons, like the Panthera, etc., the combo versions of the weapons are worse than the weapons which are being used to build the combo weapons, and that doesn't make sense. That doesn't work in my mind, because you think to yourself, the Twin Basalt, how expensive are those to make? You need an Atomos, and then you need the dual Zorin, and they're nowhere near as good as either weapon in the first place. You look at the Panthera, that is nowhere near as good as the Mitre. The Mitre is a much better version of the Panthera. And, and the Mitre itself, to build it, is kind of time consuming. You need 5 parts to build it. So my problem is these combined weapons are so much weaker compared to the weapons which are required to actually build. And maybe, the combo system needs to be relooked at, or it just kind of needs to be reworked, or the stats need to be reworked as well. I mean, we already have power creep. There's no point denying it, because we already have it. Look at the new Prime mod that came out. Anyone who says otherwise, either is living in denial or, just doesn't want to see it. So, power creep, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Power creep happens in every game. Even as hard as you try to avoid it, it will happen to an extent. Whether it's a small amount, whether it's a high amount, it will end up happening. So it's basically kind of one of those things which will, just go with it, so to speak. But the thing is, combo weapons being weaker than the weapons which are being used, that's not right. That needs to be fixed, and that really needs to be looked at, and it's really bothering me. It kills my inner child, watching these good weapons being turned into terrible ones. I don't know how the rest of you guys feel about it, but it really makes me depressed. And I really do like using some of these weapons. Like, I love using the Flux Rifle. I love using the Mitre. I love using the Dual Zoran and Atomos. And then when I look at weapons like the Twin Basalt and the Panthera, and I'm like, what is this? Why? DEY? That's all I think to myself. Headshot, what do you think about it?
I'm pretty much in the same camp as you, mate. Like, there are so many of these new sort of dual combo weapon type things that are just not worth it in terms of the actual build costs. Like, the Twin Basalt is obviously one that you can mention very, very easily because that thing is just, they're just terrible. Terrible on so many levels. The same thing with the Panthera. I like the idea of having combo weapons, of combining two weapons for another weapon. There's a sense of progression, I guess, is what I'm going forward. Like that sort of thing. There is a sense of progression of going from two potentially not as good weapons to a fairly good weapon. But the problem is the weapon at the end of it isn't worth the thing that you put in the first place. It really needs to be looked at in terms of the weapon that comes out at the end of it needs to be, I don't want to say vastly better, but it needs to be like competing with some of the top weapons in the game, to be honest, because it is way more expensive to make. I don't know. I've seen a lot of people complaining about having the combo weapons in the first place, but I really like the progression that they actually bring. It's just like you say, the weapon at the end of it just has to be worth it before that actually makes sense to do.
Yeah, no, I agree. If once the Twin Basalt came out, I was like, oh, another combo weapon, nice. And then I was like, oh, an Atomos and a Dual Zoran, that's pretty expensive. Those are pretty good weapons, so this thing must be fantastic. And then when you actually get it, it's like, why does this thing even exist? It's like grabbing two good weapons, duct taping them together, and then coming out with like a toy gun. It doesn't work, please.
Can I just point out one thing? When the Twin Basalt came out, I know you guys knew how excited I was because that basically meant I could hit Mastery 21. You both know I bought an Atomos and Dual Zoran blueprint. I rushed that and then I rushed the Twin Basalt just so I could hit Mastery 21 and then just, shine and bask in the glory of Mastery 21. But when I used the actual weapon, I thought to myself, this is a very expensive build. I really hope this weapon is worth it. I used the weapon and my inner child just kind of started crying. It was so depressing. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go back to using my Mark 1 Paris and, probably end up doing more damage than the Twin Basalt. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but you get my point.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think with pretty much every combo weapon except the Agjakaro so far, we've been like, as soon as they came out, we were like, oh, combo weapon. And then never mind, it's crap. Maybe the Tipo as well, back when the Coptering was a thing, but other than that, pretty much every weapon so far that we've had that was combo was like, why does this even exist? Stop making us cry, come on. I would personally like to see, it doesn't have to be a major improvement like you guys said, but at least make it compete with the previous two weapons. If the Twin Basalt had, similar stats to the Dual Zoran, then it could be a different side grade. Instead of doing just normal damage, you do heat damage with the Twin Basalt, things like that. But they're just straight up worse than the Dual Zoran. So not only do you have to actually downgrade the Dual Zoran into a Twin Basalt, but you also have to grab yourself another Atomos as well and build that. It's really expensive for a downgrade, which makes no sense at all. But anything else we want to add to the combo weapon rant and how D needs to step their game up?
I think I pretty much covered it, unless you guys have anything else to say.
No.
Yeah, alright, fair enough. D, please get your shit together. We need better combo weapons. Thank you. Onto the raid though. I personally haven't done the raid yet. I absolutely hate doing raids. I've only done the previous one twice. So you're gonna have to tell me how that went for you guys. But from what I've heard, the raid is an absolute disaster this time around. Frozen, could you fill us in on that and how your experiences with the raid went so far?
Absolute disaster. I think that might be a bit too harsh to say, but it was a bit disappointing. I've played a lot of games with, which have got raids in them, and, they're done well. And the first raid was fine with Warframe, the Trial of Retribution. It had its bugs, but that's okay. That's not the problem. The bugs are not the problem. It's the implementation, which is what bothers me about the raid. So basically, in the raid, you are required a thing called what's it called? It's like it's a part which you need, which drops only in the second part of the raid in order to complete the actual raid itself. I don't like the fact that you have to build a key, go into the raid, farm for that resource, come out. You have to exit the raid prematurely, come out, build whatever it takes, however long it takes, because you need to do the research first, then you have to build the thing, which takes another 24 hours. So you have to do all that. You have to wait all that time just in order to do the raid itself. And I absolutely hate that they hid it behind yet another gate, something like this. This grind gate is unnecessary, and it's adding artificial time gating. And I really, really do not like that aspect of the raid itself. As much as as Headshot, I don't usually do raids in Warframe much, mainly because I just, it's not something that interests me. But having said that, I will still do the raid once or twice, try it out, finish it off. Once I complete it, that's it. I will stop. It's not something I will keep repeating. But just the fact that, they added something which only drops in the raid, that is, very bothersome for me.
Yeah, fair enough. I've heard a lot of people say the same so far, that, the fact that you do the raid, then you have to leave the raid halfway through, build something, wait for it to be done, and then continue on with doing the actual raid is, in my opinion, just bad design. I don't like doing raids, not in Warframe, not in any other game. I just don't like the idea of it. That's, a personal thing, but having to stop halfway through a raid to go back and build something else is just terrible design, in my opinion. Headshot, how do you feel about the raid as well? What are your opinions on it so far?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan so far. I'm not a fan of Archwing in the first place, although the Archwing stuff was actually kind of fun, although screw you DE for orange and green lights. But having to run the raid so you can leave and complete the raid in like 24 hours later, it's a really poor mechanic. I don't understand what they were thinking when they did that. But not only that, it now forces you into a clan. Because the antitoxin injector thing is clan tech research. Which means you now can't actually do that raid unless you are in a clan. Which, as far as I thought, they weren't going to be doing that sort of thing for the raids. I didn't think they were going to force you to be in a clan just to do a raid. Which is kind of a bit... I don't understand what the logic is behind that, because it just makes it so difficult for people to do. And the other thing they haven't really thought about is that, 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the line is how difficult it's going to be for people to get like a farming group to go into into that raid and farm the bits they need for that antitoxin injector. I don't think they've thought that through, because, 6 months down the line, everyone's going to have it, and anyone that's new coming into that sort of thing is going to have no chance whatsoever of getting a group together to go and do it. So I have a feeling that is something that will change eventually, and we'll end up seeing another place to go and farm it, because, like I say, further on down the road, it's not going to make any sense whatsoever. In terms of, I haven't actually completed the raid yet. I do want to at some point, but it's just, it's one of those things that I'm not sure how I'm gonna enjoy. I don't run the Law of Retribution very often because I find it very boring. It's just all standing on buttons. That's the entire thing. That's the entire raid can be described in those few words: standing on buttons. The new one looks different. It looks way more interesting, I have to admit, and a lot more interactive, but we'll have to see when I actually manage to get a group together to complete it, but yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I think it is a horrible mechanic, and the fact that you now have to join a clan as well just to be able to complete a raid it forces people into clans, and I personally hate being forced into clans or into groups of other people, not just in Warframe, but in every other MMO or things like that out there as well. I absolutely hate being forced into a group with other people, and I think it is a very, honestly, bad mechanic by D, force people into clans, then, have them leave halfway throughout the game. I think they really done goofed on this one with the raid. Anything you guys want to add after this, or I think that's about it, really?
I think that's about it.
Pretty much. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers all the topics for this one.
All right. In that case, I think that is going to be the end of this episode. I do have one more announcement to make, though. I will most likely not be returning for the podcast for quite a while, if at all. I'm going to be taking a break from it. I am having some personal issues as well. So this is going to be my last podcast. I, of course, wish the very best to Frozen and Headshot with their future podcast, and I will definitely be listening to it in the future as well. So good luck to that, guys. But that is going to be it for me for a while. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I wish you the best of luck. Good luck, guys.
Yep, it was definitely a pleasure having, doing the podcast with you, Dimitri, and I'm hoping, everything sorts out for yourself in the future and that you will be able to join us back again in the future. Until then, it was definitely a pleasure having you, and we're hoping to see you back soon.
Yeah,
thank you very much, man.
Pretty much exactly the same for me. Hopefully everything gets a bit better for you outside of all the gaming stuff. So it's been definitely good having you on the podcast for sure.
The only thing I would like to say regarding the podcast itself, that we're pretty much finishing the podcast stuff. We're wrapping up here, guys. The only thing I would like to say is we are not going to have another podcast tomorrow because we are going to go back to having a schedule of keeping the podcast on a every Saturday basis. Tomorrow, Headshot's going to be busy with his extra live stream, so we are not going to be doing a podcast, obviously, tomorrow. But most likely, the podcast will go back to the normal schedule of next Saturday, and we're going to try and maintain it so that we do it all one podcast every Saturday now. There is most likely a chance that we will have someone else joining us. I'm not going to spoil it yet who we are going to have, but when we get round to it, you'll see soon enough anyway when it happens. So again, thank you very much for joining today, guys, and I really appreciate you guys being here and listening to this to the podcast, and I will see you in the next one.
Yep, also from me, guys, just shamelessly plug my stream tomorrow, the extra live stream at 1400 GMT my time. We are going to be going live for a 24-hour live stream to raise money for children's hospitals through the extra live stream. So head over to twitch.tv/headshot, and I'm going to be live for 24 hours. So, I mean, if you can't tune in for all of it, tune in for the end, because I'm sure I'm going to be knackered and it's going to be amusing. So, yeah, and hopefully we can raise some money for some very good charities. So, hopefully I'll see you there, and I shall see you next time.